Ward,
Here.
Olson.
Here. We will jump right in. Is Josh, you running this, or Brad, or who's?
Josh will be handling this and
Okay.
start the conversation. So, Josh,
Well,
Go ahead.
thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm going to just share my screen here. All right. Can everyone see the aerial photo image on the screen?
Yep.
You can. Okay, good. So what we're hoping to get direction on from the City Council this evening is a request regarding grooming of winter trails in Southwest Baxter for the use of fat tire biking. Specifically, the request is to allow a group of private individuals to use basically a private snow grooming machine to groom trails within the open space of Southwest Baxter. Again, for the purposes of fat tire biking. One of the individuals owns a snowmobile, which is a specific snowmobile for snow grooming for this purpose. It's essentially a wider and heavier than normal snowmobile. And they also have a pull behind groomer. However, in their experience of using this particular machine is that the snowmobile machine itself provides the a surface that's very conducive to fat tire biking just by driving the snowmobile, where you want the trails to be groomed. But specifically, the request is to basically use existing trails within the open space in Southwest Baxter. So we're talking about the Mississippi Overlook area. And of course, the council is very aware that we've expanded that land quite a bit of late and have new opportunities of public open space that are currently in city ownership. One item I wanted to share about the group here is that the individuals currently do groom fat tire bike trails around Gilbert Lake and Brainerd. And based on kind of their description of how that's gone, they typically see around 15 people at any given time using the trails that they maintain around Gilbert Lake for the purpose of fat tire biking. So it's certainly been well received around in that particular area. And so they're hoping to expand new trails in Baxter for the same purpose. So in talking with them, their expectation is to receive similar type of numbers to what they've been seeing in the Gilbert Lake type of trail. So in terms of the specific request, they're proposing to use the trail entrance or the trailhead entrance off. Excuse me, I got an echo there. The trail entrance off Oakdale Road. Are you guys hearing an echo there?
Yeah, what did you just change?
I don't think I changed anything.
No, you're back now.
I'm back now. Okay, maybe I'll try to talk quieter or something. Sorry about that. So the group is proposing to use the Oakdale Road trailhead entrance, which is basically a dead end road. And for those of you familiar with the park property, the road ends and the trailhead begins, and then it's basically a chip trail that takes you through the Mississippi River Overlook Park area. And they would like to use that trail following the corridor that's on the map here, starting on the right, extending through and along the river into the 200 acres that was part of the LCCMR proposal, and following some of those existing trails in that 200 acres, also using the power line corridor, which is in the middle, and then also extending westerly over to the Island Lake area and beyond, getting over to the west end of the city open space, and then looping back up towards Mapleton Road to make a route around in kind of a loop, and then coming back through that westerly open space, if you will, just using existing trails that they've found that are already in existence on the property, and grooming that for that purpose. One of the things that they've talked with me about is that they're not requesting an exclusive use. You know, sometimes when you're talking about winter trails, the surface of the snow and the condition of that becomes important in terms of, you know, various different types of recreational users could impact a surface depending on what the use is. But in talking with them, they're not interested in trying to keep it just for fat tire biking, but really allowing hiking and snowshoeing and skiing on that same surface. And actually, by compacting the surface, it does make the property more accessible to the public for those other passive recreational uses than if they didn't groom the trails. In looking at that land, the city does currently receive some winter use within the Mississippi Overlook Park area and the 200 acres currently for passive use of hiking, snowshoeing, skiing, and some snowmobile use. In talking with park staff, the current use of the trail system during basically today's snow conditions includes basically hiking and some snowmobile use. So in the memo that's attached to the packet, I did add a number of items for the council's consideration and for your discussion here this evening. First of which I wanted to just talk about was the fact that the city is planning to commence a study of this open space property. If the council will recall, there was a plan to earmark a certain amount of money within the park dedication fund to study this new open space land as part of the city for master planning efforts and policy planning efforts, so that we can address requests that come into the city for various types of intended uses, as well as doing master planning for the land and what improvements might occur there. So in thinking of that study, one item that staff would recommend is to encourage perhaps not making any permanent decisions for any individual groups and their use of the property in advance of that future planning process. One other item I would note is that this specific request to the council is for a one-year agreement that could be drafted if the council so wishes for consideration at a regular agenda meeting in the future, that would allow for basically a one-year trial run for the remainder of winter conditions, so they can get on the landscape and kind of see how it goes, see how popular it is, and so forth. Another item for the council's consideration is because staff received the request recently, we don't know if the council is interested in accepting this type of use. The city hasn't done any kind of notice to adjacent property owners within the land area. And, you know, we really don't know how popular it will be, which leads into another item that we brought up in the staff memo, which is parking. Currently, when you look at the dead end of Oakdale Road, it is in a residential subdivision. That subdivision is not fully built out, so there's a number of vacant lots in the area where the road dead ends. So there's some space currently that's not impacted by homes for parking to occur on both sides of the road in that basic trailhead area. But there is no organized parking lot for this open space property at this time. So depending on how popular it would be, that would just be something for the council's consideration. And lastly, I guess with parking, I think if there were 15 people at any given time, there would be sufficient space on the road to park those users. But depending on how much use beyond that it receives could possibly lead to complaints from adjacent property owners because it is a residential subdivision. One of the other things that we would want to make sure gets addressed in any agreement for any kind of one-year approval would be to make sure that that any city liability concerns are addressed and any private insurance needs, if required, are addressed. So that would be something that staff would look at doing if the council decides to move forward with having staff draft a one-year agreement. Also, the city should also consider concerns regarding, when the use should stop, specifically regarding melting conditions. The trail map that's on the screen really shows kind of broad use on trails that in many situations, those trails aren't specifically open in their entirety in the summer very easily because they cross wetlands, they cross Pike Creek. And so there's some environmentally sensitive areas, which isn't necessarily a problem for winter use, but as conditions melt and if there's continued bike use, say later into the spring, that could cause erosion or damage to the ground surface, or could impact environmentally sensitive areas. So we definitely want to make sure we address when that use should stop and when the grooming should stop. One other thing that staff wanted to point out for the council's consideration is there is a private road that comes off Mapleton Road and services a number of single family property owners and landowners. Basically, the road comes off Mapleton Road and basically navigates along the east side of Island Lake. And that road is a crossing, would be a crossing location for the groomed trail to access this westerly half of the city open space property. And I just draw your attention back to the fact that the city didn't reach out to any of the landowners as of yet to bring them into the discussion, so to speak. It is a private road. The city does own land all the way around this road, but it's a road that's shared by a number of different residents in that area. And so one of the things that would need to be discussed or talked about is, how does that grooming machine impact the plowing and maintenance of a privately plowed road and with bikes crossing that road. So there's possible plowing and potential maintenance questions that could get raised with that westerly use area. Another item to just point out is that, by driving a grooming machine that's essentially a large snowmobile, it could definitely attract the use of additional snowmobile traffic in the area. Presently, there's not a lot of snowmobile use, but we don't know if that would change once there's groomed trails throughout the open space property. And then lastly, one thing to note is that the city parks maintenance staff does use this land in the wintertime for general maintenance of the property, whether it be basically trail maintenance and regarding tree maintenance for the trail system. So there is a need to bring the city skid loader and city trucks back into that area, which the group has been made aware of and does need to know that there are times when the surface might get damaged as park staff needs to maintain the property. With that, I think basically staff is generally supportive of the idea of snow grooming to offer, just new access for community members during the winter time when deep snow could keep people from using the open space property. So in general, the staff has support for the concept. We just want to make sure that that any possible concerns that could be viewed as things that we should be considering is put on the table for the council's consideration before moving forward. And I guess lastly, we're just requesting that the council have discussion and if there's an ability to provide staff consensus support moving forward. We did put in the memo 3 different options for the council's consideration. The first of which being moving forward with having staff draft a 1-year agreement for the remainder of the winter. But I think by the time we are able to basically dot I's and cross T's on an agreement, you'd probably be looking at one of your probably March meetings, which begs the question how much winter is really left. And but if that is direction you would like us to move forward, we could definitely work at that and bring this back forward to a future meeting. Another option for the council is to say, we're a little late in the winter this year, but let's reevaluate it after the city's completed a study of the property in 2021 and consider that for potential use in 2022. Or a third option is to direct staff that you don't wish for us to spend any additional time on it at this time. So I guess with that, I'm happy to turn it back over to the council, see if there's any questions. I do know that the group is listening to the meeting this evening. I don't know that any of them wish to speak here this evening, but just know that they're listening and happy to answer any questions that the council has.
There we go. So comments or questions, council, for Josh or staff?
If this were to be put off until 2022, then we would miss out on a good share of the winter next year, the tail end of 21. I guess I would be in support of trying to do a temporary agreement or a one-year agreement now, but I think it's important that the people who live along that road are informed. But goodness, with all of the limitations that we have because of COVID, anything that we can do to allow outside activity and safe activity, I'm for, as long as the residents living along the street are informed.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I think it's a good idea and a good use. I guess as you were talking through some of the things that need to be in the agreement, definitely we need to get something in there on the liability side, on the fact that they'd be using a piece of private equipment, potentially at the same time they might be in there using the trail. So that would definitely be something that you'd want to get in that agreement. But I'd be all for moving forward and getting an agreement put together. And if it works for the rest of the year, then it's an easy discussion to have to move it to a future year or future time. But I agree, we need to get it out there and get the public comment on it.
Councilmember Ward.
I agree with what Councilor Licio and Councilor Cross both said. I would like to see it happen this year. I agree with the liability question for sure. Also, the insurance. We need to make sure that the insurance question is on there, or something like use at your own risk. I don't know, Josh, if that's appropriate or not. The lawyer would know that better than I or whatever. But as Councilor Licio said, anything that we can do to provide some outdoor activity during this tough year, we should. But like they both said, the landowners need to know what's going on as well. That private road crossing is a little bit of a concern, but as long as we draw something up that that covers both them and us for all of those kind of questions and concerns, I say we move forward and we move forward fast.
Anybody else? Yeah, Zach.
The only thing I'd add, I'd agree generally with everything, and just add that I think it sounds like it would be covered anyway, but in the agreements and discussion, just to make the point that just because this particular user group got there first, it's not implying some kind of preferential use for fat tire biking or any kind of agreement that we're going to do this beyond this attempt or anything like that, as far as creating an expectation for this group moving forward.
Okay, thank you.
Question, when the ground is determined to not be safe anymore to prevent harm to the wildlife and plants, would John Lynn be the point person as far as communicating that, or how would the bikers be made aware that, okay, season over?
Yeah, Mayor Council, that is a great question. It's a question that I know I had as well, because yes, they're grooming the trails privately, but they might not know all of the users that attempt to use that.
Mhm.
So kind of like once the faucet is turned on, is it easy to turn off, so to speak, at those times? I think that would be a challenge. I do know that they definitely have um, um, you know, ways to communicate with similar users. I think it's a community, so to speak. So I think they could use those Facebook pages or what have you. We certainly could use our city Facebook page or city website also. But I think, hopefully, if we stop that well enough in advance of melting conditions, hopefully the use would draw down if the trails aren't maintained. But that is somewhat of a concern. Do we end up, and that's the time when the ground is probably the most sensitive, is during that spring condition when the ground's real soft and all of that. So, but the other side to that too, though, is once the ground gets soft and you're not going to go very far crossing a wetland on a bike, probably, once you get into some wet areas or creek crossings or a deeper situation where but that's definitely a bit of a concern for staff, with just safety too. So it would be something that we should definitely put some time into with that agreement to make sure that we pick a safe point in time to kind of stop the grooming and be prepared to actually have staff go out there, and we may even need to block the access of the trails that had been used in the winter at some point, at worst case scenario, so that we don't have an unsafe or situation with thin ice or something like that. So
John?
Yeah, I also, Councilor Tabbitt raised a good point, and that is a multiple use of a trail, whether it be ATV, snowmobile, cross-country skier, snowshoer, hike, whatever. And so, I think there needs to be something in there that does say, this is for multi-purpose, multi-use. And, I've been in a number of situations where that has become a problem. And so I just think multi-use, multi-purpose is a terminology that covers a lot of areas.
Josh, could you put the plat up again?
yeah.
I'll just talk real fast here, right? We spent a lot of time debating this property in the first place before we even bought it or entered into an agreement. And one of the things that was talked about was the minute this happens, there will be requests from all different organizations, and we don't have a plan. And so it was kind of decided that we should throw some money at it and try to maybe put the brakes on to an extent to do the planning, to decide what we want to happen in there. Another issue is it's been a long-standing problem with that private road, and there's been hours and hours of discussion. Neighbors have been into utilities commission meetings, have been into council meetings, and with people using that road that they're maintaining and that they are paying for. The minute this thing hit the paper that we bought this property, I got a phone call from one of those same people and said, people are already using the road coming in trying to find this property. And what are you going to do about it? They're coming in on our private road trying to find the west end of this property. And so that's really of grave concern to them too. Now, I think everybody else has touched on this. We need to bring the neighbors in and show them what the prospects are of doing this. And I would just throw this out. But if we want to get going with something unplanned and in a hurry, I would suggest that we stay east of the river, the creek, and the road, and until we have a chance to, at least for the first year, let them do what we have for trails there on the east side. See how that works. It gives us time to decide we want to go further, bring the neighbors in, and let everybody know what's going on. I agree with the comment the staff makes, is that once people see the snowmobile groover and the snowmobile trail there, curiosity, it's like Northern following a daredevil. It's going to be an enticement to bring people out there too. So I don't want us to make a mistake. I don't want us to jump too quick. I don't want to be a damper here either. But I think that we could, in my opinion, we could compromise and do half of it, maybe right away this year if everybody wants to do that. But I think there are some challenges and issues with that west end, based on, conversations we've had over the years with those people. And so, for what it's worth, that's,
Mayor?
Mr. Mayor,
yes, sir. Mark,
Mr. Mayor, just a quick thought too, with the mountain biking, and I haven't had a chance to talk with Josh about this, but the public safety concerns. I know in the setup of the Cuyuna Range area, there was a lot of planning that went into extraction points and reference points on the trails in the case of an emergency. I don't think we have anything like that out there at all. At the very least, I'd want to get with the fire chief, Tim Holmes, just to go over some things. I like your idea of just the east end. That kind of makes my job twice as easy if we start doing this. But if we expand that to that west side, that's some extremely remote, very difficult areas to get into, I believe. I haven't been back there in the wooded part for years, but just something to think about. I know the fire department has the tools to get back there, but it's uncharted, and that's something we should maybe think about too, liability wise. So just a thought. Thanks.
Good point.
Mayor?
yes, sir.
Just one thing, just for the council's consideration too, when I did raise the concerns about the private road, I think this group would be receptive to just staying on the east side. I think they'd of course prefer to have, double the length of trail if they could, but I think if it meant that being a comfort level for the council, they did express to me that they would be comfortable with just the east side if that's where this landed, in terms of a direction, just for the council's awareness of their comfort level with that too. So
Sounds like a good compromise and a good first step to me.
Well, I think it's something that could be put into place a lot quicker, and it gives us time to work with the people on the west side. And so they have plenty of notice that this is a potential. They may not have a problem with it. I just know in the past they've questioned everything we've done as it affected their road, and I understand that. So
Yeah.
So what are our thoughts? What are our consensus?
I say we move forward with the compromise, keeping it off to the side of the private road.
I would agree with that.
Well, I would agree. I would agree also, and also Chief Ekstad's points are well taken. I was involved with the development of the biking trails over in Cuyuna, and they put a lot of time into looking at the emergency extraction and being able to service anybody that got hurt in there. So I think that's a very, very good idea.
Yeah, that wasn't something that even crossed my mind.
Mark, you okay?
Yeah, I would agree with compromise. I think that's a good idea.
Okay, we will move out. It's almost 7:00, so we'll look for a motion to adjourn our workshop.
So moved.
Motion by Cross,
Second.
second by Alessio. All in favor, roll call.
Cross,
Yes.
Licio,
Yes.
Tabit,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Olson.
Yes, and we will move into the council meeting here in a minute. Thanks, staff, for your work on that. Okay, we got 7:00. Kelly, when you're ready.
Go ahead, Mayor, we're recording.
Okay, it's 7 o'clock and time to begin our regularly scheduled Baxter City Council meeting. We welcome you. At this time, we'll open up with a roll call.
Cross,
Here,
Lucio,
Here,
Habit,
Here,
Ward,
Here,
Olson.
Here. The next thing on the agenda is our pledge of allegiance to the flag. If you would join me for that. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. City Administrator, any additions or changes to the agenda?
There's not a change or addition. I just want to provide one clarification. Item 6D, which is the internship job description. I do want to note that since the publication of the agenda, we did receive word from Sourcewell that we will receive the funding that's outlined in the RCA.
Okay, very good. Any public comments?
We received none.
All right, move on to 6, consent agenda. The following items are considered non-controversial by staff and are recommended to be read and passed in one motion. Any council person, staff, citizen, or meeting attendee can request one or more items be pulled from the consent agenda. And the item will be pulled and addressed immediately after the passage of the consent agenda. Otherwise, the following items will be passed in one motion. A, approve the city council work session minutes from January 19th, 2021. B, approve the city council minutes from January 19th, 2021. C, approve the payment of bills and finance report. D, approve the engineering intern job description and authorize staff to commence the process of filling the engineering internship position contingent on approval of Sourcewell funding. E, appoint Mr. Jacob Reber to the streets and utilities maintenance position. F, approve the city's pay equity report and authorize submittal of the report to the Department of Minnesota Management and Budget. Look for a motion. Motion by Cross, second by Ward. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Cross,
yes,
Lucio,
yes,
Habit,
yes.
Olson. I'm
Yes.
sorry, Ward,
yes.
Olson.
Yes. Seeing no other business, we move right on to council comments. Licio?
believe it or not, I have none at this time.
Well, that's okay. Mr. Tabbitt?
I'll just comment on the internship position situation and say that I think it's worth thanking Sourcewell for the support that they provided by doing that. It's amazing to me the amount of support, funding, and assistance, just staff time that organization provides across the region here. So I'm glad that we have that opportunity and hopefully it goes well.
Yeah, good point. Mr. Ward?
Mayor, I've lost my screen. Could somebody in Kelly or somebody tell me what I need to do here?
oh, we can see you.
Yeah, we can see you.
Okay, well, that's fine then. So I do have a number of items, Mr. Mayor. Number one, I just want to bring up to all of everybody's attention and notification that, I want to congratulate the Brainerd JCs on an extravaganza, virtual extravaganza. It sounded like it went really well. And not easy to do, but they were successful with it. And many of our nonprofits are going to reap the benefit of that. And also, we got a young guy by the name of Joey Haig, who went to Nisswa School, graduated from Brainerd High School. And just like in the fall, when Nick Anderson, Brainerd High School grad, was in the World Series, Joey Haig's been playing in the Super Bowl on Sunday. So we're rooting on the Bucks for that with Joey Haig at the helm. And then I want to just give a shout out to Finance Director Jeremy Vasinik, and a constituent called me with a finance question, and she talked to him, and she was very pleased with how she received the information and things as such. So want to just give a shout out to, that staffer for taking care of that. Want to make the council and the mayor know that, the legislation that was proposed by Representative Rick Hansen, House File 30, and then in the Senate, it's Senate File 166, about the Whiskey Creek project. I sent letters to Representative Hansen and Senator Rude, who are both on those bills, supporting us, and then asked our area legislators to also look at that and asking them to review it and see if they could co-author it and support us as well. So if any other elected city councilor, mayor, or whoever, even a city staffer wanted to get a letter to the representatives, especially the ones that are on the bill already, that really does make an impact and a difference. So I just wanted to let you know that that's something that I have done, and would encourage you to consider doing that. Then the last couple things, I had another constituent get hold of me, actually lives by me, on some broadband issues. And what wasn't known at the time is that the federal government, the FCC, is changing some regulations this coming summer. And they are like when you get your cell phone, when you have a cell phone and they use different towers for their signals, the FCC is now banning different towers to be used for internet coverage, which means there's a whole lot of people in the city of Baxter, in our whole area, that are going to lose their internet. Now, I know that there's some state and federal funding for broadband expansion, and I would ask that we bring this up as a discussion at our next work session to see what the staff can find out about that, and maybe work in cooperation with other local governmental agencies to see if we can, and our internet providers, to see what we can do, because there's going to be a lot of people that are all of a sudden not going to be without any internet, and it's going to be a pretty significant deal. So I bring that forward as a discussion item for our next work session and next agenda, I hope. And then the last thing I have is from another constituent, that he's building a new home. And let me just back up. Brad, I talked to you about the internet thing and the FCC regulations coming down. Were you able to find out any more information, or is that for a later discussion?
I've had conversation with Christy Westbrook, the CEO of CTC. She's putting together a fact sheet related to the topic, and I would anticipate that we would have that available. If not, be requesting Mrs. Westbrook to be part of our work session.
Okay, very good. Very good, thank you. So I had another constituent get hold of me that is building a new home in the Brainerd area, and in the city of Brainerd. And so what happens, as a lot of you already probably know, is, they need to put money aside until the house is fully inspected and passed inspection by all of our inspectors. Then that money is held until the inspection is done and found to be appropriate, and then they can get an occupancy release. But what happens is the contractors need the money right away. So, I guess what I'm going to present is a discussion again on how that whole process works within the city of Brainerd, and if there is a way that we can provide the staff with the authority to release the money once it is found to be safe occupancy, so that those bills can be paid to the contractors. And I know, Brad, that you've been approached about this as well. So I just ask for a further discussion about that issue as well.
Okay.
And Mr. Mayor,
Sure.
as I understand, I don't know if this is the case or not, but as I understand, either you or other councilors have to agree to that to move it forward as both of those items that I've asked to be a discussion item on a work session and a further agenda. Is that correct or not?
Yeah, I think so, but I think we're all here, and I think those are a couple of issues I'm assuming we would all be interested in. So I don't anticipate a problem there. Anybody, council, got a problem with any of those two things, or?
Nope.
No, I think they're legitimate conversations, so no problem.
Very good. Thank you for that. I can't see you, so I can't read you.
Well, I haven't changed, unfortunately.
Oh, there you are. Oh, now I see.
Well, thank you. I really don't have anything to add to that either. So we'll move on to the city administrator.
Just one item, just an announcement that the BLADAC annual meeting, which is held typically in March, will be done virtually. The date has been set, which is Tuesday, March 9th at 7:30 p.m. or 7:30 a.m. I apologize. That is just a save the date. Official invitations will be forthcoming here probably in the next few weeks. So, but just wanted you to get that on your calendar.
Okay, thank you. The city attorney?
Looking for a motion to go into closed session regarding potential purchase of real estate.
Okay. That looks like
I'll
the
make a motion.
motion by Licio. Second by Cross. Roll call?
Cross,
Yes.
Licio,
Yes.
Cabot,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Olson.
Yes. If anybody's listening, we're going into a closed session to, like the attorney said, to discuss some real estate purchase, but we will be coming back into open to adjourn and announce any conclusions we come to if we do. Thank you. Okay, Brad, you want to people where we're at?
There's no action to be taken. We received directive from the council to continue the conversations with the property owner. So with that, no action and no other updates. So we would need a motion to adjourn.
All righty. Motion?
Connie, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second by Ward. All in favor, roll call.
Cross,
Yes.
Licio,
Yes.
Tabit,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Olson.
Yes. Have a good week, people.
Yeah, you too.
See you
Go
later.
Bucks. Go
Everyone.
Bucks.
Go Bucks.